So in today's show, we're going to be going over hypothyroidism, which is near and dear to my heart as I've had it for about 20 years. I'm Dr. Travis Zigler, and I'm going to be interviewing my primary care physician, Dr. Mark Newman. So Dr. Mark Newman, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Travis. Glad to be here.
So before we jump into hypothyroidism, tell viewers just a little bit about yourself, where you practice, and where you're from.
Okay, we're in Temperance, Michigan. We do an anti-aging and functional medicine practice, meaning that we try to help you maximize your health naturally as much as possible. I was a chiropractor initially. I continued my education as an osteopathic physician. And then, like I say, now we focus on helping people maximize their health. And we believe that when you change your health, you'll change your life.
And make sure that you subscribe to his YouTube channel. Click that above my head, or you can find it down in the comments below. And you can learn more about thyroid disease. You can learn more about adrenal fatigue. But without further ado, let's jump into the content and get the questions from you, the viewer. And if you have any questions, make sure you put those down in the comments below. So the first question, obviously, is just what is hypothyroidism?
Okay, well, before we even answer that, let's just tell you about the thyroid gland. We all have one. Thyroid gland is a small gland that sets in the front of the neck. It's butterfly-shaped. We refer to it as the master gland of all things metabolic in the body. If the thyroid gland is not functioning properly, you will not have good health. When we talk about hypothyroidism, we're talking, hypo means down or below. That means that thyroid is not functioning properly. So most of the metabolic processes of your body are going to be on slow. You're going to notice things like fatigue, weight gain, brittle nails, hair loss, brain fog, increased aches and pains, slowdown of your digestive functions. Those are just a few of the symptoms that you might notice with hypothyroidism.
Yeah, and you know, I smile because as you're going through that symptom list, if I'm either off my diet or if I can tell that I'm not in my zone of like where I should be, I have arthritis. I gain weight, I feel bloated, I feel brain fog, and that goes to do with diet as well, but with me having hypothyroidism, it just throws it off even more, so I'm very sensitive to what I eat. And so I guess the next question would be, how do you treat hypothyroidism?
Well, hypothyroidism, first of all, we always want to look at the whole person. So we're going to look at your diet, your exercise, your stress reduction. Those are the areas we're going to focus on. So we want to clean up your diet. We want to focus on fruits, vegetables, healthy proteins. We're going to do blood studies and so forth to look at to what degree you have hypothyroidism. Sometimes you can treat it naturally with supplements, diet modifications, and so forth. But if you have to take that next step, then you're going to have to go on medication. And oftentimes that can be a lifelong medication that you have to be on.
I'm 20 years strong, so.
Well, there you go. And then, of course, stress reduction. And that's always going to maximize your health no matter what your health condition is.
Yeah, and something that I've followed your videos, and we'll put your playlist for your thyroid disease right above us, but something that I've noted with that is Brazil nuts. And so I eat 4 organic Brazil nuts every day for the selenium, but that iodine and selenium supplement is what you referred to as well. And then just making sure that you're getting that. But Brazil nuts has been a key staple of my diet for probably the last year. And with my blood work with you, we cut my antibodies from, I think it was like 320 down to 100.
Right, there's been a significant change.
And so I've been able to decrease my dosage for the first time in 10 years, which I never thought I would do again because I've been on that same dose for about 10 years. So you kind of already talked about how to treat it naturally. Do you consider hypothyroidism to be genetic, or do you see it in a familial setting?
Well, we know that as an autoimmune disease, Hashimoto's thyroiditis, which is the major cause of hypothyroidism, is responsible for about 90% of the cases, and that can follow your family.
Okay, yeah, I think it was my great-grandma that had it, or my grandma, one of the two. I can't remember what it was, but let's jump into the next question from the viewers, and I'm actually going to get my paperwork out so we can kind of go over it a little bit, but
okay.
How do you test for hypothyroidism?
Well, the major things we're going to look at, number one, we're going to look at the thyroid-stimulating hormone. That's the signaling hormone from the brain out to the thyroid that tells it to increase or decrease production of the hormones. Then we're going to take a look at T4. We primarily look at the free element of T4. That's the primary hormone that's produced by the thyroid. Then in the body, it's converted over to T3, and if we're talking 3 and 4, that represents how many iodine molecules essentially are on there. So the active hormone is T3 primarily, and that's kind of the primary loop we look at. Now the other things that we can take a look at is we can look at reverse T3, which is sort of a stored T3, and then we can take a look for thyroid antibodies, and that would tell you if you've really a fairly involved case of hypothyroidism.
Yeah, and it looks like most of my levels are normal. The only one that was kind of close was the TSH was a 0.57, which was on the low side of normal. But for the most part, it was all pretty much normal for us in the normal range this time, and that's why we brought the dose down. The one thing that was off was I think the thyroid antibodies is still the only one that's off for me now. And we're at 107, but like we talked about, we were at 320.
That had reduced quite a bit though with your diet and supplements.
And then being below 9, do you feel like I will ever get there to be below 9, even though we're at 107 right now?
I would never want to predict how somebody's health would go. I think, when you do the best to maximize your health, your body will respond in kind.
Yeah, and mine has been, and it's been great. And we've talked about it before, but I went on like a keto green diet where I eat mostly vegetables, healthy fats, and just kind of eliminate the processed foods. I eliminated meat. I still eat meat probably once every 1 month maybe. I didn't completely eliminate it, but for the most part, dairy, eliminated that completely, and then wheat, and then peas. So I found green peas to be a high sensitivity, so we eliminated pea protein.
Okay.
And so that's kind of all helped out. So back to the hypothyroidism. Question from the viewer, can hypothyroidism cause anxiety?
Well, we always say that when your body is not functioning properly metabolically, it can have a number of responses. So with hypothyroidism, most people would tend to notice a slowdown, more depressed mood or attitude, but as an individual, you might have anxiety.
Yeah, I completely agree. This is another question from the viewer. Can hypothyroidism cause acne?
Well, again, because the thyroid gland is involved in all things metabolically. Usually when we see skin eruptions, we usually say a skin eruption can often be a problem of an inward problem. When you have hypothyroidism, there tends to be a slowdown of metabolism as far as your gut function and so forth. Your gut is responsible for the bulk of your immune function, so if you've got a breakdown in your immune system, you certainly could have outbreaks with your skin.
It makes complete sense. So last question, we've kind of talked about this kind of throughout the video, but if I was sitting in your chair and I wanted to know how to cure hypothyroidism naturally, what would be the kind of advice that you would give me in regards to that?
I always go back to those foundations. Number one, with your diet, you want to clean that diet up. Minimize or eliminate your grains and dairy. Those, for most people, are going to be a source of inflammation, and inflammation is always the root cause of all aging, degeneration, and disease. So I always would counsel you to minimize or eliminate those, number one. And then, obviously, processed foods, get rid of that. And what we said earlier, focus on your healthy proteins, vegetables, and fruits. You can look at supplementation, and that would be things like iodine, selenium, glandular products to support the thyroid gland. And then I just almost spilled over into it a little earlier. We mentioned the adrenal glands, because adrenal glands and thyroid glands are kind of partners here. Mm-hmm. So if you've got a doctor that can work with you and also look and see how are your adrenal glands working, if they're depleted, then you want to come alongside there and help treat that adrenal dysfunction too, because that's going to take stress off the thyroid gland. So you could, obviously by helping another organ system, might make a major difference in how the thyroid functions. We talked about exercise. I tell patients it's impossible to maximize your health without exercise. For most patients, I tell them resistance type exercise will give them the most bang for the buck. But Travis or Mark or the patient watching has to determine what they will do and do it on a regular basis. Yeah. That's the determining factor there. And then the third thing is obviously stress reduction. And stress, I always say, if you're alive, you got stress. But again, there's people, places, and things in your life that are, that can cause overwhelming problems to your health. You have to be you have to be the one to know how to minimize or eliminate those stressors.
Yeah, I love that. Diet, exercise, stress. Those are three things that we mentioned with dry eye, because this is why I came to you in the first place. You treat the whole body. You're not treating a disease, because what we do on our channel and what we've written about in our book is we consider every disease to be a symptom of an overall body problem. And so when we treat that whole body, that's when everything starts to get better. So that's why I actually came to you in the first place, and you've helped change my life and led me down a course of making me learn more. And so I thank you for that. And then if you want to learn more about the thyroid gland, make sure you go check out his channel, because he's got a ton of videos on hypothyroidism, hyperthyroidism, adrenal fatigue, and just overall systemic health. So make sure you go check those out on his channel. I'll put that link down in the comments below.